I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Canon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Happy birthday, Kiki!
Aw, thank you, Tuesday.
It is Kiki's birthday. So, now you're 40. How's that doing for you?
Feels much like 39, I guess. I don't know, it's just a day different. Let me get a few days into it and we'll see.
All right, since this is Kiki's birthday, she gets to pick the movie that we're going to talk about today, and you have picked George of the Jungle, the 1997 film based off the 1967 cartoon by Jay Ward. Jay Ward, of course, the creator of Rocky and Bullwinkle, Peabody and Sherman, and those kind of cartoons like Fractured Fairy Tales, Super Chicken. You know them. I see.
Yeah, I was a big Jay Ward fan when I was a kid. Mostly the Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoons, although I did watch a lot of George of the Jungle. Yeah, there used to be when we were kids. I don't really remember what channel it came on. I don't know if it was like Nickelodeon or maybe Cartoon Network or something. But some channel used to have kind of a Jay Ward block that they would play. So they would play a lot of the Rocky and Bullwinkle, Dudley Do Right, George of the Jungle, all those cartoons. And I was quite fond of them because their humor was much more intelligent than you thought at first glance.
Yeah, it was adult level of humor, but still something that a kid could enjoy.
Yeah, the visuals were very kid-level humor. It was very slapstick, very goofy sound effects. But if you actually listened to the words, the things the narrator was saying, very much a how much can we get past the censors?
And also how many vaguely disguised pop culture references for the time. So like if you're us watching these in the 80s, there are references that we're not going to get because those are pure 60s references.
Unless you're me, who was bizarrely stuck in the 60s during the 80s. I was an only child and I wasn't really around a lot of people my own age. I hung around adults, and the adults I hung around made jokes from the 60s. So all of my cultural references were from the adults I was around. So I knew the jokes that were coming through on the Jay Ward cartoons better than I knew the jokes that were coming through on some of the cartoons that were aimed at kids our age at the time. So it was strangely targeted exactly at me and my humor in a way that a lot of things that were supposed to be targeted at the 80s kids were not hitting me in the same way, I guess. So I have a great love for this style of comedy. And during the 90s, the Jay Ward properties got a live-action revival. We got some live-action Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Technically that was Boris and Natasha.
Boris, You are so bad. You are so bad. You are good.
It's good to be bad.
Well, yeah.
And you and I are the only two that remember that movie.
Plus, I have a great love of Boris and Natasha as well. I mean, you know, Natasha Fatale was goals for me as a kid. I absolutely loved Natasha. So we got that, and we got a Dudley Do-Right, also with Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
And we got George of the Jungle. So there was a really interesting J. Ward revival, and this was part of it. This one was fun for me as a kid. Let's see, how old would we have been when this came out? So July of 97.
16.
So yeah. Somewhere in the we should have been too old and too cool for this, but I was always the dorky person who never had that too cool for this face. So this was
Me too.
This was very much a like, Brendan Fraser is going to be George of the Jungle. Please sign me up for that.
Also, Brendan Fraser was kind of he was kind of the it star at the time. A lot of people will go to like The Mummy, but he was kind of the star of comedies like Encino Man and stuff like that.
Well, the interesting thing is that this was one of his breakthrough films. I think this may have been his first really big box office hit.
Because it was with the biggest, I mean, this is Disney, and they're picking him to be the lead in their movie.
He had done Encino Man before this. That was kind of the first thing that people had seen him in, and he was, if you've never seen Encino Man, it's a couple of
stoners.
Yeah, a couple of stoner kids find a caveman frozen in ice while I think they're digging out a pool or something in their backyard.
Yeah.
And that caveman is Brendan Fraser, and they have to take a caveman and show him modern day. But the weird thing is that he ended up having another film success that same year as Encino Man, which was the entirely opposite end of the film spectrum, which was a film called School Ties, which I saw basically the same year. I mean, I saw them both right when they came out, which was Brendan Fraser playing a Jewish kid who gets sent to a really preppy upper class boarding school full of basically, white supremacist kids who do not like that there is a Jewish guy in their school and do everything they can to convince him to leave. And it is very dramatic and very harrowing. And it stars a number of people who would, within the next couple of years, go on to be huge stars. Chris O'Donnell is in it. Matt Damon is in it. There's like 6 different people in there that within the next couple of years would be the biggest box office draws. And Brendan Fraser was kind of the first one to hit it big of all of the guys.
And you fast forward 1 year and you get a similar movie with honors, and then you have Airheads.
Yeah, which is him and Adam Sandler, and who's the third one in that?
Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi, yeah.
As a rock band.
And they're like a grunge band or something.
They're a rock band who tries to get their album played on the radio, so they kidnap the DJ. DJ and board themselves inside of a studio, I think. Yeah. It's been ages since I've seen that one. So yeah, he keeps bouncing back and forth
between these really dramatic parts and then these like absolutely brainless meathead kind of roles.
Yeah, and then the same year he does George of the Jungle, he does Twilight for the Golds. So it's he keeps on going drama, comedy, drama, comedy, drama, comedy.
And it was so good for his career. I mean, it was a brilliant move. I don't know if it was super intentional or he just kind of did what his agent brought to him, but wow, did it work, because Brendan Fraser became the biggest star on the planet in the early 90s.
And again, to kind of go through this again, we go to fast forward past this movie to 99. He does Blast from the Past, which is a comedy about a kid being raised in a fallout shelter. And that's the same year that The Mummy comes out, which really blasts him into the stratosphere.
Yeah, I honestly, if we could be talking about The Mummy right now, we'd be talking about The Mummy. Let's just be honest with ourselves. If Disney owned The Mummy, this would be an episode about The Mummy. I love Blast from the Past as well. I mean, most of the movies we've talked about are like, I really love them. They're great. I am a huge Brendan Fraser fan. And one of the reasons that I chose this film for my birthday episode is because we are going through the Renaissance right now.
Yeah. He's kind of getting this career resurgence that kind of started with Doom Patrol, I think.
Let's be honest. He had this huge bit with the Mummy films, and then he also went and he did a bunch of television. Like, he was on Scrubs for a while as a guest star, and if you've never seen his arc on Scrubs as a guest star and know where that storyline goes, I will not spoil it for you, but that is an emotional roller coaster that you need to experience. Like, you need to go on that ride unspoiled. And, it is amazing.
A really great Looney Tunes movie that nobody saw.
Oh, yes. Looney Tunes Back in Action is possibly the best Looney Tunes film. Like, I'm not going to hate on the original Space Jam, but Looney Tunes Back in Action is far and away my favorite of that style. In which he plays
himself.
No. Well, I mean, he does at the end of the film, but for most of the film, he plays Brendan Fraser's stunt double. He plays a character who is not Brendan Fraser, but he is the stunt double of Brendan Fraser. So people keep asking him, like, hey, are you Brendan Fraser? And he goes, no, I'm the stunt double. I'm the guy they got because I look kind of like Brendan Fraser. I'm his stunt double. But at the end of the film, spoiler alert, he actually gets to meet Brendan Fraser and punches himself in the face. But
that's therapy right there.
He said that it actually was, because at that point in his career, he was really hating the idea of fame. And that was kind of one of the last things he did before really dropping away as a huge star. And he had a point in his career where he never stopped acting. It wasn't like he became a recluse. Some stars, they get to a point and then they just retire. He never did that. He has continued acting for his entire career, but he did kind of drop more out of the public eye. It is kind of sad because he suffered some personal trauma. He had his own Me Too moment. I'll leave it at that. It's out there if you want to read it. He has been open about his story.
Not to mention he's had a couple of injuries doing these action movies.
Yeah, the Mummy movies really did take a huge toll on his body. He said by the time he did the final film in the Mummy series that he appeared in, he was, under his costume, was mostly ice packs, athletic tape, braces. He said he was basically a suit underneath his costume just to hold his body together through filming. Afterwards, he had to have multiple surgeries to repair his body. Some of them he had to have multiple times because the first surgery didn't take. It really did do a number on him, unfortunately. So he stepped away, especially from the big action roles, because of that, because of some personal reasons. He had a very unfortunately contentious divorce. But he mostly focused for the past, decade or so. He's been really focused on being a father. He has 3 sons, and he spends a lot of time with them. And he's got some horses that he bought for therapy for one of his sons. He has a son who is on the autism spectrum, and so he bought therapy horses for his sons, and then he discovered that being around the horses was good therapy for him too. And so he and his oldest son spend a lot of time around the horses for therapy for the both of them.
Which says a lot concerning one scene in this movie.
Yeah, and when I saw that scene in the film, I had forgotten that scene was in this film. We'll get to it, but I thought, oh man, that really did kind of foreshadow where he ended up. But yeah, he focuses on his children now. He focuses on photography. In fact, if you watch through his films, he uses a lot of instant cameras in his films, and a lot of them are usually very strange cameras that you don't see. And it turns out that a lot of them are from his personal collection, and he works them into the movies so that his characters can use them. And he keeps a lot of photos, and there are books on photography that even have like dedications to him and stuff because of that. So he's well known in the type of community that loves those sort of instant cameras because he's just well known for it. So we've got the so-called Renaissance now. He started with Cliff Steele, who is Robot Man in the Titans series, and then they spun it off into the Doom Patrol. That is, I haven't seen all of Doom Patrol. I watched the first season. Mm-hmm. Really good stuff. Also, Alan Tudyk is in that, and you know how much I love Alan Tudyk. So he also showed up recently in the miniseries called Trust, which was about the Getty family. And he plays one of the major characters in there. He's got a couple of major upcoming roles just in this year or next year. He's going to be in a movie for Darren Aronofsky called The Whale, in which he is going to portray a man who weighs 600 pounds, I believe. He's also going to be working with Martin Scorsese in a film called Killers of the Flower Moon. And he's also going to be in a film called Brothers that is going to be a comedy. But I absolutely have been loving this because for a while people had thought of him as a joke, and that really made me sad because he has long been one of my favorite actors, and I really admired the range that he had because, as we talked about, he kept bouncing around in those early years from the kind of, George of the Jungle is mostly just him in a loincloth making really doofy jokes. And then, but in that same year, he does all these massively dramatic roles. And I always thought that level of range and commitment was very interesting. And you didn't see a lot of actors who were capable of doing both, but also were allowed to do both and were interested in doing both. So I always found him very fascinating during his early career, and I'm glad that he's gone in the public eye from that guy who always took his shirt off, and whatever happened to him, and maybe to people our age who kind of grew up with him are now in the position to go like, hey, can we please revisit him and how awesome he is and how awesome he always was. Like, Brendan Fraser didn't just become awesome. Brendan Fraser was always awesome. Please get on board the train that we have been on since the early 90s. Thank you. And one last thing. There was always one thing I remember from his time as a huge star, and it was a weird little commercial he did for Comedy Central.
Hi, I'm Brendan Fraser. You're watching Comedy Central. That's Fraser, not Frasier. If you say Frasier, I know where you live.
Oh, crap. Brendan Fraser's going to kill me.
And so because of that, I have spent the last 20 years making sure I pronounce his name correctly. So he will not find me and kill me.
So before we keep going,
I'm perfectly okay with Brendan Fraser finding me. I do not want the death, though. Thank you.
So before we keep going, let's talk for a brief second about another jungle man, because Brendan here auditioned to play Tarzan in Disney's Tarzan before getting the role of George. So we've talked about the 99 Tarzan movie, and that's a big question, why Disney would make an animated Tarzan movie at the same time as making a live-action Tarzan-like movie.
Because Disney likes money. I don't know why this is a... but here's the thing. I'll tell you exactly why Brendan Fraser plays George of the Jungle and Tony Goldwyn plays Tarzan. Mm-hmm. Have you seen a picture of Tony Goldwyn? He's the guy that played the president on that Shondaland TV series. Mm-hmm. He's tall, he's skinny, he looks very presidential. Brendan Fraser was built like Brendan Fraser in the 90s. That's the reason why Brendan Fraser is George of the Jungle in live action and Tony Goldwyn is Tarzan in a voice booth. I'm sorry, but there you go. It's kind of interesting. The one thing that he said actually kind of hurt his feelings was that he was up for the part of Superman in a Superman film that never got made. It was just before Looney Tunes Back in Action. It was kind of one of the reasons why he wanted to do that scene where he punched Brendan Fraser in the face. He was working through his feelings of like, well, you know, why couldn't I get cast as Superman? Am I not buff enough? Am I not Clark Kentish enough? Am I not Supermanish enough? Am I, you know, what is wrong with me? Am I not a big box office draw anymore? Am I not? He said that was the part that he lost out on that really hurt him. That one, I would have cast Brendan Fraser at the time as Superman.
I think he could have pulled it off.
I think Brendan Fraser would have been a much better Clark Kent, to be honest, because Brendan Fraser is and we'll see it in George, that Brendan Fraser has the ability to pull off a very kind, I'll just go ahead and say it, a very kind, non-toxic masculinity. Let's talk about kind of who else is in this with him, because it's kind of a who's who of people who were big in the 90s but you don't see a lot of them now. As Ursula, his love interest, we have Leslie Mann, and Leslie Mann kind of was the love interest for a lot of kind of weird sex comedy, stoner comedy, dude comedy kind of films. Big Daddy with Adam Sandler, Virgin with Steve Carell. She's in Cable Guy, but she's a little sweeter and a little nicer in this film than she usually is in those other things, I think. Thomas Hayden Church is one of our two main villains in this, at least from George's perspective. I don't know. We get a lot of villains in this film, don't we?
Some completely out of nowhere.
Yeah, some kind of come out of nowhere. Some we follow for the whole film. But I guess our primary villain, Thomas Hayden Church, plays Lyle.
Ursula's guy she travels with.
Yeah. He's expected to be her fiance. Ursula seems less interested in that arrangement. Most recently, I guess you'd say he was Sandman in Spider-Man 3. That was the final of the Raimi Spider-Mans.
Yeah.
But in the 90s, he was still the guy from Wings. But he also went on to star in Ned and Stacy, but he was everywhere in the 90s. And then we have the legendary John Cleese as the voice of as the voice of Ape Named Ape. We have an interesting one in Abraham Ben Ruby as one of our two poachers that show up. There's the one that looks like the 50s greaser. He's the other guy. The interesting thing is in the 90s, he was known for his role on ER.
I will always know him from Parker Lewis Can't Lose. He was like the bully.
Yeah, I never saw Parker Lewis Can't Lose, so I don't know. He does a lot of voice acting now. He works a lot for Robot Chicken, and he did a lot of voices for World of Warcraft. But once again, he was everywhere in the 90s, and now you just kind of, he pops up now and then, and you go like, oh, wow, hey, man, where you been? We have Holland Taylor, the great Holland Taylor, showing up as Ursula's mom. Holland Taylor's been another one that's kind of had a resurgence lately. She has been kind of everywhere recently because she's started doing things since she came out as a lesbian that more kind of fit into the LGBT community. So she had done a big stint on the show The L Word, for instance, and stuff like that. Recently, she married Sarah Paulson, who is kind of best known for her work on American Horror Story and stuff like that. So, yay! Holland Taylor, interestingly, one of the stranger Disney connections would be that she came back and did the love interest of the Grand Duke in Cinderella 2 and Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time.
Cinderella 3, I'm going to be honest, is one of the better direct-to-video sequels, and hopefully we can get to that one day.
Yeah, that's what everybody says, but I haven't gotten around to watching it yet, so I really should. As our snarky narrator, which is always the best part of the Jay Ward shows, so I love that this movie keeps it, we have Keith Scott, who is a voice actor who, honestly...
It's Keith doing a Paul Frees impression, but he gets the cadence down perfectly.
And Keith Scott also does the voice now of Bullwinkle and Boris Badenoff and Fearless Leader as well. So, he's one of those that, has taken up the mantle for a lot of the Jay Ward stuff. And, of course, we have a lot of animals in this movie, and you know what that means. Frank Welker, he is your childhood. He is all animals everywhere. Love him, respect him.
All right, so it's now time to get into this. Let's talk about that defender of the innocent, protector of the weak, and all-around good guy, George of the Jungle. This opening sequence, it's full animated opening sequence. It's close enough to the J. Ward style that I'm not too mad about it.
I'm gonna say I'm a little mad about it.
All right.
They could have done better on the animation. I'm not gonna ding them too bad. I'm glad they tried. But the J. Ward animation style is such a specific style. I wish they'd have gone a little more into it. I will say the other thing I'm going to ding them on is that the audio mixing, I don't know what this is, but the audio mixing for the theme song, not very good. And I'm a person who has some audio processing issues. So, this is a brilliant cover of the theme song. I want to talk about this for just half a second. Presidents of the United States of America, mad respect.
George of the jungle, strong as he can be. Watch out for that tree.
They rock this 6 Ways from Sunday. Love it, love it, love it. But in the sound mix that is on Disney Plus, it is very hard to hear over the sound effects that are playing. And they caption the sound effects in the closed caption. It'll say bonk or crash or whatever. They do not caption the lyrics to this song. At no point do they caption the lyrics to this song.
That's unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate, and they need to change it because the lyrics to the song are great. It is a really catchy tune, and I have always liked this theme song. But we've got the traditional Tarzan conceit of rich white people going into the jungle to find something. In this case, it's the legendary great white ape.
We have our explorer Ursula. She's no Jane.
I'll give Ursula something that Jane didn't have. Was that Jane was the daughter of a explorer or whatever who seemed interested herself but was not the instigator of. Ursula just seems to be a woman who just decided to hire some guides and go there herself because she wanted to.
If you've got the money.
And she does. She is an heiress to a banking fortune, as we see through the movie. But we kind of skipped over the point of the opening sequence, which is that George ends up in the jungle basically the same way Tarzan ends up in the jungle. There is a plane crash, and he is the only survivor, I guess, and he is raised by an ape, a talking gorilla who is just named Ape. Anyway, 25 years later.
I do like that 25 years later part. We do get a nice camera effect from George's point of view swinging through the trees.
Before he smacks into one, yeah.
He is unconscious, which is full J. Ward style comedy.
Ursula has skipped off to Uganda. She has a guide named Kwame who I totally blanked. How could I blank on this in the actor rundown? Kwame is, of course, the legend himself. He is a bad mother.
Shut your mouth.
I'm just talking about Richard Roundtree. Yeah, it is Shaft himself playing Kwame, Ursula's guide through the Ugandan jungle. But yeah, he's helping her out, and the thing is that there's a lot of ways they could go with this, because let's face it, rich white people stomping through the jungle looking for animals and whatnot never tends to go well. But Ursula just seems to be there to take video footage of the animals and otherwise leave them be.
But really, she's in the jungle because it's the furthest away she can get from her fiancé, Lyle, who just happens to show up.
Yeah, or so she thought, with a group of men who seem to be the only people willing to come with him. But they hate him because he's Lyle.
Well, they are paying him, so they kind of have to do what he says. But yeah, they just hate him because he's a Richard.
Yeah. And now Lyle, the ultimate Richard.
Yeah, so he wants to take Ursula away from the jungle, away from this. Let's go back to the hotel. They have pillows there. Let's go back to America, where there's civilization, and not understanding that Ursula really likes it out here. She likes photographing nature.
Lyle immediately gets out there and just starts being super racist, or as racist as
you can get
Disney in the 90s would let him be.
He is the prototypical stupid American.
The entire point of Lyle is to be rich and awful and racist to everyone around him. Mm-hmm. And, bravo to Thomas Hayden Church. She pulls it off wonderfully. And it makes you really sad when the narrator says, "Don't worry, no one dies in this movie." And you're like, oh, really?
They just get really big boo-boos. That is a very Jay Wardish comedy bit right there. It's like, well, we can't kill anyone because we got to keep our G rating.
It really is. This movie, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This movie nails the Jay Ward comedy style perfectly.
Especially the few adult jokes that are in this movie.
The few. This movie is adult joke after adult joke. I was so shocked at how many jokes about genitals there were in this movie.
We'll get to them. There's our main thing is that Lyle carries a gun lighter. And,
yes, we have to mention that there is a small pistol-shaped lighter that he carries to light his very annoying, offensive cigars that make everybody around him cough.
Lyle shows the cutting-edge technology of a Polaroid camera because he thinks these are all jungle people who've never seen modern technology. And then one of the guys just pulls out a high-end 35 millimeter camera saying, "Yeah, your camera's fine, but my camera's better."
Yeah, one of the most kind of racist things he does at this point is he's like, "Look, magic fire, magic picture taking, like magic painting box," or however he describes it. Like, dude, these guys drove up here in a Jeep. I think they're familiar with lighters and cameras and everything. And of course, the whole joke is that there's just 3 African guys that just sit around making fun of the rich American dude in Swahili, and they caption it the whole time. Yeah. So that you understand what the African guys are saying in Swahili.
So after getting thoroughly embarrassed, Lyle grabs Ursula saying, "You want a white ape? We're going to go find the white ape." And Mitz gets...
I do like the scene of Richard Roundtree telling the story of the white ape. Mm-hmm. And making it sound like, like this really interesting, like cryptid Bigfoot kind of thing. They say the white ape stalks the land and he is the biggest and strongest and he will kill anything that comes to, and then you just like, flashback to like, George doing something silly or whatever.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, the white ape is George.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, the thing is, that's not really a spoiler, because even as he's telling the story lampshades that really fast that, like, we know this is George, Yeah.
So, Lyle takes Ursula to go off just to, let's find this white ape and get out of here. face to face with a lion. Lyle, ever the brave and true and manly man, bravely runs away, trips on a tree root, and gets knocked out, leaving the lion to go after Ursula. But then here comes good guy George to have his daily wrestling match with his friend the lion.
People make fun of me saying that, my love of animals is so great that I have absolutely no self-preservation instinct around animals, and that if I ever met a lion, the first thing I would do would be like, oh, you're kitty, 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 kitty. And that is the first thing that George does coming out of the jungle, is he just goes like, oh, kitty, 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 kitty. And I told my friend who watches these movies with me, I said, see, that is the appropriate greeting for a lion. King of the jungle walks out, sees a lion, and goes, kitty, 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 kitty.
And we have a full-on WWE wrestling match as George bounces off the rubber tree, hits the clothesline, airplane spin. My only complaint, that is not a pile driver, George. That is an elbow drop.
Yeah. But in fairness to George, I don't think they get pay-per-view in the jungle.
I mean, this is, this is 1997 at the height of WWF Attitude Era. So, of course, they're going to put a wrestling reference in their kids' movie.
The thing that I love is that George swings in, and you hear his approach, and then I love the moment just before he hits the tree when Ursula kind of goes, watch out for that tree,
Yeah.
When the lion cringes because he knows that George is about to whack into the tree.
I don't know if that's an animatronic or CG onto the real lion.
Well, a lot of the animal effects were animatronic done by Henson. So I don't actually know. A lot of the lion fight was puppetry.
And now you can kind of tell now with high quality TV which is the real lion and which is the puppet lion. And very obvious CG on the airplane spin.
Well, yeah. The CG does not hold up. It's very easy to tell with the animals, and especially later when we get to Shep. The CG in the film does not hold up. But I'll tell you, we've talked about this every time we've talked about anything Henson worked on. Man, those Henson puppets hold up decade after decade, let me tell you. All the puppetry work holds up really well, and the practical effects hold up in general, but 90s CG, not the best.
Yeah, so after the lion fight, George scoops up Ursula and they're swinging away. Of course, another watch out for that tree moment, but this time Ursula gets hit and she's knocked unconscious. Oops. We do get back to he does take her back to his treehouse, but there is a moment here that unless you're a really good George of the Jungle fan, you're going to miss this one, as he constantly refers to Ursula as fella. Now, if you know the George of the Jungle theme song, it goes,
Then away you slept on his elephant ship, while Fella and Ursula stay in step.
which shows two Ursulas at kind of with George.
Yeah, it is a really good callback to the show, and also because George has never seen a female of his own species before.
He's never seen any of this. Well, yeah, he's just seen him.
Yeah. So it's, they do get into that, as the movie goes on.
So as this is happening, Lyle regains consciousness and just sees what he believes to be the white ape taking Ursula away. So brave, big, massive, manly man Lyle rips his clothes up and swishes berries onto his body to simulate blood and saying, it was a big drag-out fight and the white ape beat me up and took my girlfriend. He's 400 pounds and 8 feet tall. I have to get reinforcements. And you see all the other animals going, oh Lord, he's really going to do this.
I love the little capuchin monkey that's like, really? That's the story you're going with? Okay, dude. Sure. Whatever.
I just love that even the animals can see through the BS.
Well,
that is pure J. Ward comedy.
Well, and the thing is that the guides, when he makes it back, the guides also see immediately through the BS. The thing is that Ursula is still alone in the jungle. And Ursula is a very nice woman who might get lost. Whatever has happened to her, they still need to find her. And even though the guides don't believe this story for 1 second, they're not going to leave a woman alone in the jungle. So yeah, they get all their equipment together to go hunt down possibly the white ape, even though I don't think they really believe that he saw the white ape, but mostly just to find Ursula because she is lost in the jungle. We've got the treehouse, which is so adorable. I love the design of the treehouse.
Yeah, Ursula awakens, but is immediately freaked out over the ape named Ape speaking.
And wearing glasses and reading a medical textbook.
So Ape decides, okay, to make sure this lady doesn't freak out, I'm just going to act like a regular ape and not try to give this lady a heart attack.
And I love how not into this ruse Ape is during that. Every time Ursula walks by, he stops talking to George and goes like, oh, yes, ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. It's like...
Great on John Cleese doing that, though.
This is a very sweet courtship that they play out in the treehouse as Lyle is coming for Ursula with the guides and the poachers and, we keep cutting back, reminding us that the danger is approaching. But most of this section of the movie is just the adorable little courtship between George and Ursula as George realizes, oh, this is a female of my species, and perhaps I could have a mate. George has never thought that George could have a mate before. And George asks Ape, how does George get Ursula to be George's mate? Which, of course, gets very interesting because Ape only knows gorilla mating rituals.
So he goes through the whole gorilla mating ritual saying, okay, you gotta puff up your lips, you gotta throw some leaves around and stomp around and
beat on your chest. Yeah. It's a very adorable thing. And I think the thing I like most about it is that Brendan Fraser acts this out fully. There's a scene later in the movie where not too long after this in the courtship where the animals are playing bongos and there's music and stuff, and George asks Ursula to dance with him. And Ursula says, I would be embarrassed. And George doesn't understand the concept of embarrassment. She says, well, it's when you think other people might see you and they might judge you or make fun of you, or you might feel silly or stupid in front of them. And George is baffled by the concept because George says, but there's never been anybody else around. It's just George. Sometimes George smacks into a tree. Sometimes George falls off a treehouse. Sometimes George looks silly, but it doesn't matter because it's just George, Yeah,
there's no one around to be embarrassed in front of.
Yeah, and I realized kind of in that moment what I love so much about Brendan Fraser's portrayal of not just George, but of all the characters of this type that he plays.
Mm-hmm.
Because Brendan Fraser was kind of best known at this time for playing... I kind of love and hate this term because it comes from a really sexist term, but I kind of also like the term because it's so perfect in what it describes. Brendan Fraser was kind of the ultimate himbo. He was really good at playing these characters who were not terribly intelligent, but were incredibly kind. And so George was one of those. And the thing about all these characters, and the reason why so many people are not that great at playing them, especially men, is because I think men of a certain generation, too, are so afraid of being embarrassed and being mocked and looking stupid, for lack of a better word. And Brendan Fraser, in all of his portrayals, gave himself to these roles and didn't care if you laughed at the character, because it wasn't really him. That's part of being an actor. He didn't care if his face looked goofy and all that kind of stuff. And I loved that about him. And I realized that I wouldn't see somebody give themselves completely to this kind of character until Chris Hemsworth in the 2016 Ghostbusters film. Chris Hemsworth as Kevin in the good Ghostbusters film was the next time I would see a guy so completely portray this kind of character. And I love this type of character because it's such a beautiful kind of non-toxic portrayal. And honestly, George is not... She says that later in the movie. He's never had the benefit of like a formal education. So you would think that he's stupid. But he's not unintelligent. He's actually incredibly smart in the way that he tricks villains and the way he interacts with animals. And, he's very astute in a lot of ways. He just also runs into trees a lot.
Yeah.
There's
a great scene, and we've kind of passed that part, but I do want to go back to it for that one part. It's when we first meet Shep and Tukey Bird, and they're telling George that the little monkey is getting bullied by the other monkeys, and how he goes into that kindness of, telling little monkey that, hey, just do this and you'll be okay, and bringing in the lion from earlier to take the fall for the little monkey so all the other monkeys think he's brave. Which, it sounds like that's something out of a Tarzan movie, but it doesn't really... literally not Disney's Tarzan. It just feels like a real good guy moment that really just shows overall the character of George.
That is a scene that I liked as well, and that George constantly does things like that, is that he's completely uninterested in proving that he's better than other people or stronger than other people. I mean, he is. If you see like the big tree trunk that he lifts to throw to Shep to play fetch, George would be really good at a caber toss, He's just like, he lifts this giant tree trunk and just hurls it for the elephant. And, when he bends metal bars in helping Ape later in the movie and stuff. I mean, George is obviously incredibly capable and at a lot of things. That's not what he wants from life, His entire motivation is just, I want to be friends with the animals. I want to have fun.
The animals are my brothers. He calls Ape his brother.
Yeah. And he wants to help people. You know, we see it later in the movie with the paraglider.
Yeah.
You know, we see that he'll do things that will be a personal risk to him because it will help somebody else. I don't know. I think that those things, even though the movie doesn't point to him and go like, see kids, be like this guy, there is some kind of worth in showing that guy. You know, we have the whole scene of just showing how George lives, showing how he treats, Shep, his giant elephant, who he treats like a dog, which I love. Tuki, who brings the news from all around the jungle. And, finally he gets his dance with Ursula, but their kind of little bliss that they have here, unfortunately, broken because Lyle and the poachers finally find them. They realizes that Shep has Ivory, but Ape calls to Shep to run away. He spots the gun and says, "Run, Shep!" And they go, "Oh wait, the ape can talk. Let's shoot him with the tranquilizer gun. We'll take him to Vegas. We'll make a fortune." Lyle goes running for Ursula, and George goes running for...
Because at this point, we have to mention that Lyle had given the lighter gun, the gun-shaped lighter, to the handlers to clean it, because they say, "Oh, the lens in your camera is dirty. Let me clean it. Oh yeah, clean this too." So to get his lighter back, the guide also has a very small pistol that is an actual pistol, and accidentally gives it to Lyle, threatens him with it. And it turns out it's an actual gun. Even at the moment he fires the gun and a bullet goes off, Lyle is in instant regret.
Lyle is terrified. He was like, "Oh, no, that was... that
wasn't supposed to happen.
Stop." Yeah. No.
He never intended to kill George. He just wanted to threaten him so he'd go away so he can get Ursula.
Yeah. This is why we don't play with guns or gun-shaped things.
I do want to backtrack a bit because there's a scene in this movie that's become a meme.
Yes, we do have to talk about the meme.
So earlier in the movie, as this is happening, the return of the gun to Lyle, he says, "I'm the richest, I'm the smartest, I should be at the front of the line rather than being at the back of the line." And ends up tripping and falling face first into Shep's poo. Because there's peanuts in it.
Yeah.
And then you get, now is the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready? And the gif of that scene is just used over and over again for the last 20 years on internet forums and on Twitter and on Facebook.
Yeah, I love that. Once again, the J Ward type of humor is that before the part that is used in the gif, the longer scene is the three guides explaining why that scene is funny. Like, yes, a rich white man falling in poop. That is a very old trope. It is very funny. And I just love the three men explaining to the audience why Lyle falling into the giant pile of poop is comedy gold.
And pure J Ward style comedy. And the sheer number of fourth wall breaking in this movie. Again, pure J Ward.
Yeah, there's a lot of points where, characters talk to the narrator, and it's really funny. But
or like earlier, they looked at Ape Mountain with awe. Aw, not that awe. Ooh, better.
Yeah, not awe. Awe, AWE. Oh, better. Yeah, that is one of my favorite jokes. Yeah, but we're back to George being shot, and fortunately Ursula is incredibly rich and is able to immediately call in a private jet to take him back to where she lives in San Francisco to get the best medical help in the world for his tiny boo-boo on his head. All we ever see is a very, very tiny bandage on his head.
Well, George has to have a very hard head to keep hitting trees and not die.
Also, the best teeth in the world because he keeps smacking face first into trees and has never once cracked a tooth.
Again, nobody dies in this movie. They just get boo-boos.
Yeah. But she takes him back to San Francisco, and he is absolutely taken aback by what Ursula keeps calling a different kind of jungle. Ursula takes him up to her apartment on the 10th floor, and he immediately says, wow, this is a great treehouse. He says he wants to sleep on the balcony because it makes him feel more at home. Although my friend pointed out that he would probably freeze in San Francisco 10 floors up after being in the jungle in Uganda and the treehouse.
But eventually Ursula calls her friend over to tell him what's going on. You said you brought home a jungle man? Yeah, he's right here. And there comes George, all natural, showing off his vine.
The audience only ever sees his legs and chest, because once again, Disney movie.
But there's the adult joke of, now I know why he's king of the jungle.
Yeah.
She wants to go swinging on the vine.
And Ursula is immediately like, we're going to grab you a very large book, and we're going to grab this bowl from over here for your butt, and we're going to walk you back into the back room to get a blanket. And the thing is that they do end up finding him different clothes, which is one of her dresses, which George decides is a very nice butt flap.
We gotta pause here because I gotta backtrack. We gotta backtrack because then now that joke's made, I talk about another joke. When Ursula finally makes it back to America, she calls her mom, and her mom is very worried about her health because she's been in the jungle, and implies that her area may not be 100% healthy after being in the jungle. Since we're talking about those kind of jokes at this point.
Yeah, that is true. She does question the health of her area, which is a very interesting line of questioning.
Especially for a Disney movie.
Well, the interesting thing about her mom is that we want to talk about the racism in this movie is that her mom kind of makes a thing that is not a racist thing into a super racist thing throughout this movie.
It's more a classist than racist.
It is more classist than racist, but she uses racially loaded terms throughout the movie. Did you notice that? Like, she keeps talking about, like, she does specifically say dengue fever and all at that point. Like, she's very concerned about her daughter getting dengue fever. But then at certain points, she drops the dengue. And she seems very concerned about her daughter getting jungle fever while she's in the jungle. And then when she brings a jungle man home, despite the fact that this is the whitest man that she has brought home, okay, she keeps saying, like, I've known women before and they run off to the jungle and, you know, they have their little tryst in the jungle and then they come back from the jungle and it's very bizarre how often that the mother keeps talking about good little women going off to the jungle and having, you know, trysts.
With the locals?
With the locals. And I kept thinking, like, okay, Mom, this isn't a racial thing, but you're working really hard to make this a thing. And you're right. It's also a class thing as well. But the way that the mom keeps describing George and how George acts and where George comes from, it really sounds like they're trying to make a statement on an entirely different thing.
So yeah,
just gonna say that.
So yeah, after getting George some new clothes, she takes her back to her place.
No, I want to go back to the clothes here because they make one of my favorite jokes in the movie, which is that George puts on this very adorable frilly pink spaghetti strap dress, looks at himself in the mirror, and with the biggest grin says, "This very nice butt flap." And George immediately wanders down to the street and just happily wanders the street of San Francisco in his beautiful frilly pink butt flap. And the narrator says, being more conservative of gender roles, Ursula takes George shopping to get clothing that more suits her. Which means that George is perfectly happy wearing this gorgeous pink spaghetti strap dress all over San Francisco. And it's Ursula's hang up that makes her go buy him an Armani suit.
And as the narrator says, he looks pretty damn good in that Armani suit.
And he does, but he also looks good in the spaghetti strap pink butt flap, can we just say?
Yeah.
He's like, Brendan Fraser is rocking that look down the streets of San Francisco. I just have to point that out. So Brendan Fraser can wear whatever the hell Brendan Fraser wants to wear. And I think it's important that we point that out.
So after all of this, Ursula takes George back home, tells him to stay there because she has a meeting with her mother because she has to explain to her mother that she is no longer going to marry Lyle and that she brought home a jungle man. So, this is a great, again, another great moment here with the narrator said, "No walled my modern man can hold George of the jungle." And then George just looks at the camera, "Not true. I'm going to do what Ursula said. I'm going to stay right here for a little while."
Well, but I love that the narrator's like, "Wait, really? You're just gonna do what she tells you?" Because at the time, that's the trope. Like, a woman told me to stay put. No, I am big manly man. I will do whatever I want. I'm not going to do what little woman tells me. But I like that George is like, "Nope, this is Ursula's world. I don't know what I'm getting into. If Ursula says it's the smart thing for me to stay here, I'm going to listen to Ursula."
Well, this
is her jungle.
The way she described her jungle as dog eat dog, he doesn't want to go see her, a literal dog eating another literal dog, especially in his world, a dog is an elephant.
Yeah, I do not want to see that, and I'm not bringing Shep here. But I like that. I like how sensible George is. Like, nope, Ursula told me to stay here. She must have a good reason. I'm going to listen to her. I think the at least for a little while is to be like, I know that the plot is coming. I think that's more of a fourth wall break. Like, I know that the plot's going to cause me to do this. But I like that George is... He's sitting there, he's just eating junk food. Like, it's like, this is my first day in the human world, and there's Oreos.
and then he discovers coffee.
And also, who could blame him? Of course, he doesn't know how to make coffee, so he just, like, inhales coffee grounds.
Because he sees a commercial of this loving couple drinking coffee, and he believes, well, if I drink coffee, then Ursula will like me and want to be my mate.
Yeah.
So his mind, that's the key. So he's gonna eat these coffee grounds, and then he rushes out in a caffeine high.
But he rushes out because he sees somebody in trouble.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't break Ursula's idea because
no.
a whim.
He doesn't do that yet. He's watching the news and they're saying the weather.
Oh, yeah. The weather guy says,
if you're not out there,
get
out there.
You need to go outside because the weather is nice. And he says, who, me? And the weather guy says, yes, you. So, he doesn't understand how TV works, so it's fine. But as he's running around outside, that's when he ends up on the bridge and he sees that there's a paraglider in trouble, and he decides that he needs to swing over there and help the paraglider. Ursula, meanwhile, is trying to...
Ursula goes to her father's job.
Bank.
The bank,
that he presumably owns.
And it turns out that the entire bank is set up in a party congratulating her and Lyle on their engagement. And that they're setting up a big party at their house to tell all of their social life friends that their daughter is engaged. And now to Lyle. So, yeah, now she has to...
She still hasn't told them that Lyle is in a prison in Africa for shooting George.
Yeah.
She can't break it to her dad that,
She tries, but then she sees the news on the TV of George saving the paraglider.
Well, that he's trying. He's climbing the bridge at that point, and she's like, uh-oh. So she's got to rush to the bridge because she knows George is about to do something possibly very dangerous. And she makes it there. She gets on a boat. I love that they play the beginning of Don't Rain on My Parade because she's got the Barbra Streisand look of being on the boat. I like that she just walks up to a random dude and says, I need to get on this boat. And apparently the other half of that scene is, okay, random blonde woman, whatever you say.
Rich blonde woman. She has money.
Well, yeah, but
she probably flashed a couple of $100 bills and got it done.
I mean, maybe. But we never see that. So it just kind of looks like random blonde woman walks up and says, do whatever I say. They just do. Maybe that's how it works for blonde women. I don't know. I've never been blonde. But
blonde women gotta be rich.
I've never been rich either, so I wouldn't.
Yeah, so George saves the paraglider by having him slide down the rope he's used back to the ground. The wind picks up and George with the parachute just flying out, lands on the tugboat, crashes into it as it were. And then her and George and Ursula have a nice little embrace because he's okay and everybody's fine, which is caught on the news camera, which is seen by her mother.
Yeah, and finally, Ursula ends up at her parents' house with George before the party, and she finally says, like, hey, look, Lyle is in a jail in Africa. He is not going to be here at the party tonight. And also, he's a horrible person, and I don't want to marry him. I brought George back with me, and he's a very nice guy. And they say, no. And her mother says, I can force you to marry whoever I want. Which is kind of a funny scene.
Basically, we're going to get Lyle out of jail. We're going to get him back here, and you two are going to get married because I say so. Yeah.
We are rich, and you will do what we say. So the party is going ahead.
As this is happening, this is the poachers are released from prison, or deported, as the guard says, and they immediately go after the ape again, shooting him with the tranquilizer, and putting him in a cage to take him to Vegas. And Tukey is sent to America to find George to help save Ape.
The parents end up meeting George. They agree to let him be at the engagement party for some reason. But they tell Ursula, like, no, you're telling people you're marrying Lyle. We will have this engagement party. We will tell them that, Lyle is sick or under the weather or something.
The wording that the mother says is handling some legal affairs.
Ah, yes.
Which technically he is, because he's in jail.
Yeah. But all of their socialite friends are at the party. And including the then mayor of San Francisco. who
Yep.
plays himself.
Willie Brown, the mayor of San Francisco.
Which is very, very strange, but you get that sort of thing now and then in films. And there is a very funny little "hey, that guy" moment in this as George is wandering around the party. He does talk to an actor who I kind of went, "Hey, that guy," and then I said, well, "Why do I know that guy?" You Star Trek fans might remember an episode of Next Generation called The Drumhead, which is about a half Vulcan who ends up being persecuted because they discover that he's actually half Romulan and lied about his heritage in order to get into Starfleet. And Picard has to give one of the greatest Picard speeches of all time to be like, are we going to persecute this man for his, mother's heritage or whatever it was? And the guy who played that character is in here for about 20 seconds as a dude who talks to George and says, like, where are you from? And George says, the jungle. And they were like, oh, yeah, we interned in New York City, too. Yeah, real jungle out there. Yeah. So I had a real kind of like, wait a minute. So that's funny. But this has such a sweet scene where George gets bored with the party and goes outside and discovers that Ursula's parents have horses.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where he's out there in his white Armani shirt that he's unbuttoned now so you can see his chest. And they have a whole scene which I called If Fabio Was Hot. Because it's like Brendan Fraser styled like Fabio, but hot, and all running around a field with a horse.
While Ursula and her socialite friends are just in awe of George with these horses.
One of whom was actually Brendan Fraser's then wife. Or maybe soon-to-be wife. I can't remember if they were married at that time, but the woman who he would eventually marry and be the mother of his kids, she's one of Ursula's friends in that lineup. But yeah, there's a whole line of women, and they're just like, Ursula, where did you find this man? He looks so amazing, and And Ursula talks about how wonderful George is.
Yeah, like I said, this is kind of the part where Ursula starts to fall for George because he's just a good guy. He may not be a book smart guy, but he's the sensual intelligence is the term that Ursula uses.
Well, I think one of the other women uses that, but yeah, but Ursula actually does say that it's not that George is unintelligent. He's not educated in the same way that you would expect had he grown up in San Francisco. You can see the way that he's interacting with the horse and, the people around him. He's and Ursula realizes like this is actually really is the man that I want to be with. But when they go home after the party, at the party shortly after that scene, Ursula's mom comes up to George and she makes it very clear. She says, you know how in the jungle where you're from, leopards marry leopards and tigers marry tigers. Stripes stay with stripes and spots stay with spots. Ursula is a stripe and you are a spot, and I am going to wipe you out. And George says, so you don't want Ursula to be with me? And she says, there is no way you are going to be with Ursula.
I love the line that she delivers. If he even considers ruining this wedding between Lyle and Ursula, that she would remove the reason he wears a loincloth.
Once again, another reference to the area.
And it's at this point where Tukey comes back and tells George what's going on.
Yeah, they've gone back to Ursula's apartment, and like we said, George has been sleeping on the balcony. Ursula is asleep in her bed, and George is on the balcony thinking about everything that happened that night when Tukey shows up exhausted because he just flew in from Africa, and boy, are his wings tired. And he tells...
I do like one moment here. I do like that upon close up, you see that George has tears running down his face, but it's never really outright stated whether he's crying because he sees Tukey and that's his friend, or if he's crying because of what Ursula's mom just told him.
Yeah, I always took it that he had been crying before Tukey showed up. But you can read it, kind of however you want. I do like the kind of ambiguity, but yeah, Tukey tells him like Ape's in trouble, and so he goes inside and he takes off the crocodile tooth that we didn't really mention it, but he told Ursula that he wears a crocodile tooth for good luck, and Ursula gives him a ring she found in a cereal box when she was a kid that she wears for good luck. So he gives her his crocodile tooth as a goodbye present.
Yeah.
Present, and he leaves it with her as she's sleeping, and he slips away in the middle of the night, and he puts himself in a box and ships himself back to Uganda. And I like that when he gets there, there's all these little tick marks on the inside of the box of how long he's been in there. And he says, next time I'm going to get a bigger box. And he puts on the biggest product placement in this film, which is a pair of Air Jordans.
As if the UPS product placement wasn't enough.
Yeah. But he puts on a pair of brand new Air Jordans, and he runs his way all the way through the jungle back to the treehouse. Meanwhile, the poachers have ended up back at the treehouse because, as Ape tried to warn them, Ape had switched all of the had set up a fake trail that was it said it was a shortcut to the river, but actually it was a really long trail that just wound around the mountain and ended up back at the treehouse.
And even Ape is even telling him, "Oh, you should be nice to me. I'm your meal ticket. If anything happens to me, there goes your dreams of Vegas."
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that at one point the poachers say, ask the narrator if he knew that Ape was telling the truth, and the narrator says yes. They said, "Why didn't you tell us?" And he says, "Because I don't like you." Which is one of my other favorite jokes.
So the poacher's having an argument with the narrator, and of course, because he's the narrator, he starts screwing around with the movie, fast forwarding and rewinding their dialogue.
Yeah.
Are you having a fight with the narrator?
Yeah. I love the jokes between the narrator and the bad guys, where the narrator's just messing with the bad guys just because he can.
Meanwhile, Ursula is having another conversation with her parents about George leaving. Like, why would he leave without telling me? Only for her mom to spill the beans that she had a conversation with George the night before about he needs to go back to where he came from, and Ursula should stay where she's from.
Her mother says, "Oh, come on now. You can't marry someone just because you love them." And Ursula says, "Wait. Did you say love?" And the mother's going, No, I didn't say love. I didn't say love. And then her father just stands up and says, "You go get him." Like, I like that the father's finally done with all this crap.
He calls her a jackass.
Well, yeah, and I think it's because that you finally realize through all of the mother's complaining that either the mother broke up the father's true love, or maybe the mother loved someone else. And,
the money.
But either way, it seems like Ursula's parents did not have a happy marriage. and maybe they're regretting it after all these years. So maybe they've, at least the father has finally realized, like, oh dear God, do not make the same mistake we did.
Yeah, so she's going to go get her man as George makes it back to the treehouse, and we get the big fight scene where George takes on the poachers.
Yeah, and it's a pretty good fight scene.
We've gone into a completely different cartoon because now it's a Popeye cartoon.
Yeah, it kind of is. But better because it's got Brendan Fraser in it. Yeah. There's a lot of good silly stunt work in this. And this is, it's very slapsticky and very goofy, and if you like that sort of thing, it's very fun. The animals get involved. There's a lot of using Shep's trunk as a machine gun to fire coconuts, and that kind of thing.
Ape farts on them.
Yeah, I like that bit less. Just personal taste, but I like the bit where they use Tukey as a projectile, and he ends up stuck in the guy's butt, and we get the line of like, fella got toucan on can, like, it's goofy, juvenile humor, but I'll allow it, because it's delivered just so goofily and sincerely. It's just, but fun little scene. They have a fight, but it looks like they've finally gotten George incapacitated, and all of a sudden you hear a jungle call, and it's Ursula swinging in and smacking right the heck into a tree, at which George happily exclaims, "George, good teacher." I just love how proud he is of her in that moment.
And then she's about to say, "George, there's something I have to tell you. There's something I have to tell you. Can this wait? I'm fighting someone right now."
Yeah, I love how her grand declaration of love has to be put off that, but they get the poachers settled, and they're having a moment, and then all of a sudden, Lyle shows up out of nowhere.
So yes, and we quickly get a one-sentence explanation from the narrator that he has escaped from jail and that he's joined a cult and became their leader.
Yeah, and Lyle is now an ordained minister and can perform weddings anywhere. And he's gonna perform the wedding of him and Ursula right here. Well, right over there, at least. He wants to take Ursula over there where he's got a boat waiting and perform the marriage ceremony on the boat. So now we gotta have a chase.
And now Lyle now has mercenaries under his command, and they just tie up George.
Yeah, and they're all German for some reason, because why not?
Maybe they were also criminals in jail that he just kind of, it's all happened off screen, so whatever.
Yeah, maybe they were part of the cult. We don't know. We don't care. It's just, it's time to wrap up this movie, and we had to do something with Lyle.
There's 15 minutes left of this movie. We got to wrap this story up. So Lyle ends up taking the fake quick route that Ape made up, but they end up, and looks like things are going to go bad for George until Little Monkey that we saw earlier starts sending out a message to the giant bongo waves that we saw earlier in the film when Ursula and George were dancing, and we get Teenage Mutant Ninja Gorillas.
Yeah. Suddenly Ninja Gorillas show up and fight all the mercenaries off screen because we don't have time for this crap. We gotta wrap this movie up.
The budget doesn't call for this kind of effects. We gotta do this off screen.
Yeah. But bongograms always work, right?
Yeah. So the mercenaries and the poachers are locked in the cage, And time for the hero moment. Lyle takes Ursula into a cave. They fall through the cave into a waterfall, where conveniently there's a boat. It's inflatable raft, but apparently that's a boat. Sure.
And Lyle is on his way to performing the ceremony. He's doing the short version like in Spaceballs, but he doesn't get to finish that ceremony because he didn't count on the rapids. So suddenly Lyle and Ursula are going through the rapids, and George realizes he's going to have to do the biggest swing of his life, and boy, is it going to hurt.
But he has to do it if he's going to save Ursula.
Like I said, George is a guy that will sacrifice himself for a good cause. And I love this final swing because it is so silly.
You get the airplane sound effects, the wind machine right on Brendan Fraser's face.
Yeah, and his, and that there was just some guy with like a leaf blower just off screen, blowing his face back. But he smacks into this huge tree, leaves a big George-shaped imprint on the other side of it, and it falls over the river, and George is able to pull Ursula to safety, and Lyle ends up going over. Unfortunately, he doesn't die, but he ends up in a cave with a gorilla.
And
just in a cave.
Yeah, in a cave. He ends up with a gorilla. He performs the marriage ceremony, so now Lyle is legally married to a gorilla.
Haha. This is like the only joke in the movie that doesn't work for me. Whatever.
Moving on. We got 10 minutes of this movie. We gotta wrap this up. So, George and Ursula confess their love for each other. We fast forward. We cut to the wedding, a jungle wedding, king and queen, and we see all of Ursula's social life friends there. We see all of we see Ursula's guides there, presumably with their own wives, because there's women next to them and all dolled up.
Yeah, and all of the animals in the jungle are on George's side. There's humans on Ursula's side and just all of the animals on George's side. It's a really adorable scene. I kind of like the wedding scene. It's really cute.
And the animals are working the wedding because we got a chimpanzee bartender. We got Shep as the ring bearer. Or no, we got Tuki as the ring bearer and Shep as the flower girl.
Yeah. It's really adorable and I like it. They do the whole wedding. They have the exchange of rings. It's really cute. They do the dance afterwards. It seems like the mom is finally not totally cool with it, but whatever. And she does make her thing of like, can we get out of here? All these gorillas are making me feel like Jane Goodall. And we do finally get the little stab from Ape as he wanders up and says, "Madam, I knew Jane Goodall, and you are no Jane Goodall." Fast forward a little bit, and we see that George and Ursula have a son now. George Jr.
Yeah.
Who also smacks into things. This time a railing in the treehouse, but they're proud of him anyway. And we get the final bit to remind you that this is a Disney film, as George and Ursula find themselves on top of Pride Rock and hold up George Jr. for all the animals to see and bow to him as their future king of the jungle.
Yep, we get the Lion King ending.
Yeah, literally the Lion King ending. Literally they are on top of Pride Rock. This is the actual animation.
And that is where the main movie ends, but we get a mid-credit scene?
Well, it's like a 0.3 seconds into the credits scene, but yeah, sure.
Where where we find out that Ape has indeed gone to Las Vegas and has his own show, and we get John Cleese singing a disco-fied version of Frank Sinatra's "My Way."
Yeah.
Which he does kill, and I must say.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of showgirls around, and Max and Thor are even in the tree that some of the performers smack into while dressed as George and Ursula.
Well, they are part. I guess they are part of the show. Apparently.
Yeah, they don't seem too happy about it, but
yeah.
So yeah, George of the Jungle. How we rating this one? I'll let you go first on this one.
All right, I'm going to say this. This movie is goofy, this movie is stupid, and I love it. And I love it because this movie is not afraid to be what it is. This is an adaptation of a cartoon, and this movie is not afraid to be a cartoon. This movie kind of reminds me of the new Suicide Squad movie in that the new Suicide Squad movie is not afraid to be a comic book movie. It's not afraid to jump into the silliness of comic books. And this is not afraid to jump into the silliness of cartoon. And still making it work. It works for me. This movie it really is a live action cartoon, and it works so well.
So you're going magic.
I'm going to say that George of the Jungle has the magic.
I am going to kind of agree with all of that. I was really shocked at how much fun I had watching this again. You know, we go back to a lot of these things that are so nostalgic for us as kids, especially the comedies, and we always have to go like, oh, we forgot how problematic this was. Oh my God, not a single problematic joke in this, was there?
Except for the marrying of the gorilla.
I mean, I'm not even sure that's problematic. It's just like, I don't really know what the joke was. I'm not sure it was really a funny joke. I'm not even sure I'd label that problematic as just not funny. But like this to me, all the jokes still made me laugh. We didn't even get into a lot of the humor just because, you know, it's like dissecting a frog.
Yeah, they don't really. A lot of them are visual gags, and they don't really translate into a discussion about them.
Yeah. So this is a hilarious movie, but you have to experience it. Like, we can't tell you. Just trust us. This is a funny movie. The jokes still work all these years later. Especially if you liked things like Rocky and Bullwinkle and Dudley Do-Right and the original George of the Jungle cartoon, it's exactly that kind of humor. If those things made you laugh, this will make you laugh, and it still works all these years later. And it does have a plot. It's not just mindless. There is a plot here. It's not a great plot as far as, like, you know, I'm not going to be writing academic papers about this thing probably, but, you know, there's enough of a plot to hold it together, unlike some of these films. The acting is good for what it is. It's, as in the actors give themselves to the part. The actors are willing to be these caricatures. Mm-hmm. Especially Brendan Fraser, who had the most difficult part, because it's so easy to go like, oh, this can be a role where you feel embarrassment. And we talked about that before. You know, it's like, you know, that had to be really difficult. It's like, well, you're going to be in a loincloth for 90% of this movie, making goofy faces and saying the dumbest lines. But he just kind of let it be what it was going to be, and it works so well, and you just love him for it. It's just so fun. I had so much fun watching this again. This was a great birthday present.
All right, I think that's all we can say about George of the Jungle. So,
Go watch some Brendan Fraser movies, everybody.
yeah.
Seriously, I'm not kidding on that. This really I just wanted this to be a love letter to Brendan Fraser. Go take part in the Renaissance. It's all I want. If you give me a birthday present, let it be that. Go watch some Brendan Fraser. Damn it.
All right, let's move on. Next week, we are doing our friend Heather Holloway's request for the Swiss Family Robinson, the 1960 Disney version.
Well, we're going to be back in a jungle and back with more animals.
And a treehouse.
And a treehouse.
So let's see how that goes.
We got a theme going here.
Let's see how that goes. And we will talk to you all then. Bye.
Bye. Don't let the magic stop here.
Join our conversation online on Facebook at Rewatching the Magic.
Twitter at Rewatch the Magic.
And of course, new episodes every week at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com.
Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.